You know, I've been vlogging for about a half a year now, and the one comment I still get is, "Hey Jaman, I really like your vlog, but I wish I didn't have to look at the screen to follow along with the action." So I decided, why don't I just add a commentary track over the whole vlog? That way it won't slow down the pacing of the vlog, and it'll give you a little bit more insight into the scenes that went into making the vlog, and possibly the hands that I played in the vlog. So if you had watched the vlog before this one, you know that I took some pretty bad beats. It was a pretty rough night playing poker. And when I sat down to edit it, I had to watch that rough night in front of me for hours. I think it took 5 to 6 hours to edit this footage. So that's quite a long time sitting watching yourself take bad beats over and over and over. The ironic thing is the idea of using all the Rocky clips where Rocky's just getting his head bashed in came about because I had a Rocky shirt on that night that I got my head bashed in. Something else interesting that happened during editing was that I legitimately went on tilt just watching the footage. I didn't go on tilt during the game, but during editing, I lost it. So I took a break, and I got ready to play later that night. I knew there was probably going to be a 2-5 game going. I still had the Rocky theme like buzzing through my head.
So don't have a lot of time.
And I hoped that if I ran good, I could show the other side of Rocky. That was the plan. Didn't know if the plan would work out, but that was the plan going in. So now you have your staple drive to the casino footage. I think this might have been the first trip I took to casino after I had my camera mounted on the car. So I didn't have to physically monitor it the entire time and make sure it didn't fall off the dash, which it did quite often in the earlier vlogs. This shot of me walking out of my car, walking towards a casino, talking about the weather, talking about how I don't feel as cold as I normally do, looks like it's one continuous shot that I just chopped up while editing the vlog. In actuality, this is 3 different trips. I actually forgot 2 different items in my car and had to go back twice. And I just chose to speak to the camera each time. The power of editing. The walk from the casino parking garage down the long hallway of Hollywood is often the most awkward because people don't know what you're recording because you're not talking to the camera. They think you're recording them, and it's just weird. The first hand that you guys see me play in this vlog, I think illustrates one of the differences in my game between playing 1-2 and playing 2-5. In a 1-2 game, even in late position, I'm most likely just folding 3-4 suited. However, in a 2-5 game, since we're a little bit deeper and you can make more moves, I will often raise with a hand like this in an unraised pot. With this flop, ace high, I should have more aces in my range than the villain, so it's an easy bet, especially with the gut shot. It's poker, so there's nothing that I do 100% of the time, but I do find myself often raising pocket pairs in hopes of flopping a set, in hopes of sometimes just taking it down pre-flop. When re-raised here, I noticed that we were deep enough for me to continue to try to flop a set and possibly win a big pot. The villain here is pretty solid, so I wasn't really going to try to get out of line and turn pocket 5s into a bluff. There's better spots in this game. I missed the set, so I can just fold and move on to the next hand. No big deal. In this hand, you find me raising with a hand that is probably pretty close to the bottom of my opening range and earliest position. I get 3-bet, but it's damn near a min-raise. That doesn't scream to me that the villain in this hand is very proud of their hand. I flop top pair, which is most likely the best hand, but I'm not going to donk bet. I'll check to him and see what he does. When he checks back, I'm almost certain I have the best hand. The queen does change things slightly because maybe he ran into a pair, but he kind of looked uncomfortable. I figured I better bet here rather than checking again and letting him bluff me off the hand with pocket 9s or ace king. So I took a stab at it, and I was right. There's some interesting backstory to this piece of footage here that you see with me looking at the pocket aces. Some of you may have noticed that I actually did that part in slow motion. The only reason that part of the video was in slow motion when the rest of the video isn't is I was trying to mask a tell that I and a lot of poker players often have when you look down at big pocket pairs like aces, kings, or queens. Since most players aren't going to forget that they have a monster hole cards pre-flop, they quickly just glance down at the cards, and the timing of them looking at those cards is much different than when they look down at other hole card combinations. So in post-production, I just slowed down that footage a little bit. Apparently, I wasn't slick enough, as I noticed in the comments that some pretty perceptive vlog watchers picked up that I had slowed down that action. I think that's pretty funny. To my surprise, the very next hand after picking up pocket aces, I picked up pocket kings. Here you'll see me butcher a hand by taking a hand that's very straightforward to play and playing it in a very fancy way, and most likely not getting max value from it. My open was fine, getting called as standard. However, my check here on this flop is horrible. My hope that me checking would look weak and then he would bet and then I'd make some sort of fancy play is just uncalled for. When he checks the flop, I should be betting this hand a vast majority of the time, especially since I have position. Instead, I check it back, see a diamond turn card, and now I'm in this weird guessing game where he's leading out and all I can do is call. I really wanted to raise the river here, but unfortunately I'm in a really weird spot where I'm not really representing a made hand. I have no diamond blockers, so essentially he has all the flushes in his range. I just took the route of least variance and made the call. Since I don't record a whole session, in fact I record very few of the hands that I play during the session, it's sometimes hard to find hands of any merit. In this particular session though, it was the opposite. I had quite a few hands that I played and something became of, and I had very few of those little filler fold hands. Ace rag. A very strong hand heads up and in short-handed games, but in a full ring game, all you're really looking to do is overflush somebody. Trying to flop top pair and take it a couple streets for value is just going to get you into big trouble. I don't think I could have asked for a better flop for my hand. The nut diamond draw and a straight draw. With a good table image and a billion outs, I'm going to start shoveling money into the pot as soon as possible, hoping to maximize my fold equity and not having to rely on any of the draws to actually come in. I didn't have to worry about maximizing that fold equity too long, as I caught the straight right on the turn. Now my thinking quickly shifts to, how do I get the rest of this guy's stack? I know some people ask me a lot, why do you color up? What's with the coloring up? Here's one of the main reasons. So I bet half pot here, but I bet it with very few chips. It wasn't a sea of red that I put out there that can sometimes intimidate and confuse people as to the true pot size. Unfortunately, the villain here made a great fold with pocket threes. Hats off to that guy. In reading the comments, I got a lot of questions about this hand too. Most of them wondering how I could call on the river here. I think this is a product of just basic hand reading and knowing your opponent. So I know this particular villain can open pretty light, so I choose just to call with ace 5 with the ace of diamonds. So looking at this flop, there's nothing really going on except for the obvious diamond draw. I have a gut shot, and I have the blocker to the nut flush. So when the villain bets 40 here, what is he really representing except maybe a 9? Maybe a smaller flush, but what flush could he be chasing? King high? King queen? Possibly? I call with my gut shot just to see what happens, and I run smack dab into an ace. I still have a gut shot, now I have top pair, and now the action gets checked around on the turn. So what hand out there would limp call pre-flop, bet the flop as if they have a diamond draw or a 9, check the turn when the ace hits, and then lead that big into the river? I just couldn't construct a hand except maybe 4 or 5 of diamonds exactly that would play it that way. And even then you'd expect 4 or 5 of diamonds to bet that turn for value a vast majority of the time. So I decided to just close my eyes and make that call. Nothing really overly complicated about this hand. Pick up a small pocket pair pre-flop. Again, just trying to see a flop and flop something big. When a few of us get raised by a player that doesn't have very much behind, it's a pretty easy fold, since even if I flop a set, I'm not going to make nearly enough to justify the call. Picking up a premium hand with dead money already in the pot is always a good feeling. When the hand is as easy and straightforward to play as Ace-King, it's even a better feeling. And when the pre-flop raiser starts the hand with less than 100 big blinds, this is a no-brainer. Blocking both pocket aces and pocket kings, with his stack size, there's probably no version of me ever folding if he shoves. Another easy fold. Pick up king-queen offsuit on the button. Few people have limped to me. I think this raise here is pretty standard. When I get re-raised, and I make a comment about how a 4-bet here is suicide, then oftentimes a call is just as suicidal. This should have been a pretty easy fold by me. However, I just wanted to see the flop. I was running good. I was feeling good. I thought I could hit everything. I was wrong. Another easy fold. My red chips at this point were getting a little bit out of hand. I don't like sitting with mountains and mountains of red chips in front of me. I know a lot of other players do like having mountains of chips in front of them and they're into chip porn. However, it's just that me, I find it intimidates weaker players, and it's just hard to navigate around all those chips. I'd much rather color up so then I can spike the pot with the $25 and the $100 chips, giving players an approximation of how much is in the pot at any given time. Easily the hand of the night. We're short-handed, and at this point I was opening extremely wide. I do end up getting raised from the player in the big blind, who, as I stated before, is very capable of opening even wider than I do. It's a min raise though, so it doesn't scream strength. In position, I'm happy to see a flop here. And although this villain is very aggressive, I don't often see him min raising or raising at all pre-flop without something. In other words, he's probably not doing this with air. He has some sort of hand. So I make the call. Let's see a flop. Flop comes out pretty good for me. I mean, unless he has an overpair, I have the best hand. Short-handed. Hard to flop a pair short-handed. There's no reason for me to call pre-flop, flop a pair, and then just fold. So let's go on. Let's see this turn. Gin. Now realistically, I'm only really behind one hand, and that's pocket nines. However, a $230 bet, which is a large bet in this game regardless of pot size, pretty much assures me he doesn't have a full house. Not many people would play a full house that fast, which means he most likely has aces, kings, or queens. So I'm trying my damnedest to get all our money in the pot, which I successfully do. This villain knows my game probably just as well as I know his. So while it is possible that I do have a 7, it's also possible that I have a heart draw, especially a hand like 10-8 of hearts. My read was correct and he did have pocket kings, and I win a pretty massive pot to sort of end the night for this table. This game broke pretty shortly after this hand. There was absolutely no way I was going to complete this vlog having a myriad of clips of Rocky movies without having an appearance of Hulk Hogan as Thunderlips. I mean, come on, it was his best performance. And then I got really lucky in finding this clip of Sylvester Stallone talking about the Rocky movies, the origin of the Rocky movies, and how lucky he got to actually play the lead role when he wasn't qualified. I thought it fit in pretty nicely with me playing 5-7 offsuit and then getting extremely lucky in river and quads. I just thought it all kind of fit together kind of perfectly. Something to note here about these shots of me racking up my chips, and also the shots of me cashing out. Most of the time when I go to the window at the start of the session, I buy more chips than the table maximum. So when I film that little section of the vlog where you see me cashing out and getting money back, I actually have to do 2 transactions. One for the vlog, and then one for the extra chips that I bought that I never used in the actual game. Sometimes it's a headache. This footage of me walking out of the casino into my car is often broken up or sped up sporadically just so that YouTube will not give me a copyright strike, because most of the music that you hear playing in the background is copyrighted. I won't get a copyright strike from YouTube for having a couple seconds of copyrighted music in the vlog. However, having 20 to 25 seconds of this copyrighted music playing in the background in the vlog as I walk from the casino to my car would most likely get me a copyright strike. This portion of the vlog where I'm outside of my car and I'm packing up and I'm getting ready to go and I'm talking to the camera and kind of summarizing the night is never one take. This is always multiple takes, and to the keen eye you can kind of tell where the takes are by noticing the different cars in the background, the angles of those cars, the angles of the camera. This is always just a mess. I stare at the camera, I have no idea what to say. To be honest, it sometimes takes me 10 to 15 minutes after I've walked out of the casino for me to actually get into my car and leave. If there's any awkward part to filming the vlog, for me, this is it. There's other people walking to their cars, they're wondering what I'm doing, they're just staring at me, there's cars driving by, for some reason there's cars arriving at 4:30 in the morning, there's couples arguing as they're walking to their car, even the cars driving through the parking garage on the floors above me, I have to wait for them to go by. Sometimes this part is just a really long process. And I just want to go home. And 90% of the time, I really don't know which hands I have recorded and which hands I don't. The recap of this session was a lot easier because I knew for a fact that I had the hands recorded where I picked up pocket aces and then followed it with pocket kings. And I knew I had the big hand with 5-7 offsuit versus pocket kings recorded. The worst is when I'm doing this little buy the car recap goodbye session and I mention a hand that I believe I have recorded, and then when I sit down to edit the footage, I can't find the hand or I didn't record it, and then I have to edit it out of this little car goodbye session, and it just becomes a nightmare. But in this instance, I knew I had those 3 hands recorded, so I knew I had something to talk about that I could then later edit into the vlog. That helps out a lot. And then I finish off the vlog by singing a horrible rendition of Tomorrow from the musical Annie. Why? I have zero idea. About 10 hours and not much sleep later, I'm already back in my car and I'm headed to Kansas City. The plan was to play in a planned game at Hollywood Casino in Kansas City. I believe it's the Kansas City Speedway. If you've watched the vlogs after this, you know I don't make it to Kansas City. But that's a story for another commentary. The interesting part is why this is even included in this vlog at all. I mean, it has nothing to do with Rocky, it has nothing to do with the session before, but my thinking was I was going to attempt to link the vlogs together and present them more as a serial series rather than just individual vlog after individual vlog after individual vlog. Currently, I'm still doing it this way, trying to provide some continuity between the vlogs. We'll see how long I'll keep this up. So that's it. That is it for the pilot director's commentary version of my vlog. So make sure you let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Should I do more of this? Should I have never done this in the first place? If I do it, what kind of things would you guys like to hear? Would you like to hear more behind the scenes stuff about why shots are shot in the manner they are? Would you like to hear more card stuff if I can squeeze it in? Let me know. And I'll read the comments and I'll get back to you. Alright, you guys can finish watching the last 20 seconds without me interrupting you. Catch you later. What?
Since the vlog run good is real.
People don't believe it. Like, people think I'm just like making shit up.
Why am I standing out here? I should just start my car.